Morning, everyone. How are you? Good. Good. A bit of participation. I quite like that sort of stuff as well. So I'm Martin Wallace. I'm Chief Digital Officer for Scottish Local Government. I'm delighted to introduce the session with two of my team, which I'll come to in a second or two. But just want to say thanks for joining us today at Expo 2023. A quick note on housekeeping, just so you're all aware. Please turn off your phones or put them on silent. You can take pictures if you want. It's not a problem. Just make sure you get David's good side. Please, David's the guy with the beard, by the way. Just want to point that out. There's no fire test scheduled. If the alarm sounds, please leave the building by the nearest fire exit. Staff will be on hand to assist you to the nearest assembly point, or just follow me. I'll be screaming. You'll be able to hear me, so it's fine. There are toilets located on each floor of the building. If you need any directions or assistance, please ask a member of staff. So today's session, the first session at 10 o'clock this morning, is about unlocking the power of the cloud and the digital Telecare platform. David and Sam work for me at the digital office for Scottish Local Government. So without further ado, I'll introduce you to, I don't know, I said yin and yang, Kim and Kanye, Batman and Robin, or Kylie and Jason. But, you know, shared darks especially for you. So come on up, David, and give your pitch.
Thanks for that, Martin. That was better than expected. So glad to get through that. And welcome, everyone. Okay, so as Martin says, my name is David Brown. So I head up the Analog to Digital Telecare programme. And we've started actually calling that a portfolio because it's grown in kind of scale and scope over the last 4 years, and I'll cover off a bit of kind of how it's structured later. I've got Sam Leonard with me as well, who'll talk later on, and Sam's project manager for our shared alarm receiving centre. So today I'm going to cover an introduction to Digital Office and our portfolio in Digital Telecare. Short overview of the Telecare landscape in Scotland just to set the scene. Background and introduction to the Shared Act programme, Digital Telecare Innovation, Unlocking the Power of Cloud, and the future of Telecare. So who are we? So the Digital Telecare programme sits in the Digital Office. The Digital Office is tasked with kind of driving digital transformation across local authorities, really to help them deliver on their aims and goals locally, but also to help deliver kind of national ambitions and national strategies. The approach we take is through things like independent leadership, partnership working and collaboration, capacity and capability building. We're an agile environment, so there's a real focus on delivery in the office. And some of the kind of key areas we work on are policy and strategy development, digital programme management, local capability building, and assurance of national digital programmes. So just a wee bit about the programme then, and the programme then and the background in terms of Telecare in Scotland. So Telecare in Scotland is by far the biggest care function. About 160,000 people in Scotland at the moment rely on these services 24/7, 365. And they use equipment in the service user's home to place a call into about 23 alarm receiving centres in Scotland at the moment, and they then get the appropriate help in an emergency situation. That can range from sending out next of kin to support the service user right through to response teams attending and doing some kind of manual handling, first aid tasks, right through to ambulance attendance and GP attendance. Back in 2017, it was announced by all of the main communication providers in the UK that they would be switching off decommissioning their analogue telephony network. That announcement at the time didn't register too highly on kind of standard telephony users, but for Telecare service users and for Telecare service providers who rely on those lines to connect the equipment in the service user's home with the ARC, that announcement carried a significant risk, and it's likely that if we were attempting to use analogue equipment over a digital connection post-2025, that would operate either unreliably or not at all. So Scottish Government Tech Programme at that time identified that risk for the sector and commissioned the Digital Office to mobilise a programme of work to support the sector through that change. We've been working now for about 4 years on that. Primary focus initially for the programme was around working with a small group early adopters, identifying what are the kind of key milestones here, what are the challenges for the sector. It's fair to say that Telecare has probably sat off to the side of health and care for the past decade or so. So lots of these areas that are part of this migration are completely new. Things like cybersecurity, for example. So there was a real focus on providing that kind of specialist technical expertise to these areas, but also trying to build up capability internally so these services can kind of manage these challenges. So some of the reasons for implementing digital telecare, firstly, are just to keep the lights on. So I mentioned the scale and the size of the sector in Scotland. Any disruption to that would have an enormous impact on the wider public sector and to users themselves. So the primary purpose of migrating to digital is to make sure that we can continue to deliver this really kind of crucial component in health and social care. Moving beyond that, some of the kind of wider opportunities for the sector are around meeting increased demand with this new offering around technology, this new technical architecture. We've got the ability to grow services to meet extra demand and complexity. We've got people living longer with more long-term conditions. So services can kind of rethink and redesign services to improve the offering for service users, redesign services around the user. I always caveat what I'm about to say carefully because I've worked in telecare for quite a long time, and what the sector does at the moment is fantastic, but it's completely reactive. So we wait until someone falls and then we go out and provide the necessary support. So this shift to digital, in my view, gives us a kind of once-in-a-generation opportunity to really rethink what we do, harness what this technology change unlocks for us, and start to think more preventatively and proactively rather than reactively. So the kind of primary focus for the programme is around providing leadership and guidance, operational telecare experience and knowledge, digital, security and technical guidance. And we take a Once for Scotland approach, so it's probably fair to say in the public sector we have a bit of a track record of maybe working in quite a siloed way over the past few years. So lots of services will do really good work. They'll kind of build up good experience and good intelligence and capability on a particular issue, but that will stay local to that service. So the way we've worked over the last 4 years is we work with a small cohort of service providers, co-design some guidance and some good practice, and then we'll share that nationally. There's some really strong evidence in terms of the impact that's had and the kind of the ability that's given services to really expedite their transition and accelerate their transition. So, mentioned the programme had been growing quite a bit, so we now have kind of 4 really pretty chunky work streams. The main programme, which is around supporting all telecare service providers in Scotland to go digital, and that's health and social care, local authority and housing providers. Shared Alarm Receiving Centre programme, which Sam's going to cover off shortly. Data programme, when we're about to launch phase 2 of that in the new year, and our housing programme. So we were kind of conscious over the last couple of years that housing maybe felt a bit kind of separated out from this work and didn't feel that we were necessarily included. So we've created a new piece of work to make sure they are kind of part of the conversation, part of the journey. Some of the resources available from the programme to the sector, lots of online resources. There's a real focus for us around doing whatever we can to make life as easy as possible for these teams. These services are incredibly stretched, dealing with massively increased complexity and demand. So lots of stuff online around if you need to complete something like a DPIA, for example, here's a template, it's been pre-populated with some commonalities, and if you need help to get through that and complete that, come to us as a programme and we can work through that with you. Carry out regular meetings, kind of sector-wide meetings every month. We run technical advisory group meeting, which is where service providers can access kind of specialist technology support and guidance and advice. Lots of other stakeholder events, conferences and other events like that. We have a digital telecare playbook, which has been co-designed with the sector, and that's really your A to Z on how you go digital as a service provider. So right from the very start, how do you pull together your project team? How do you set up governance for the project? Right through to how do you source and procure your solution? How do you test that? How do you implement it? Right through to project closure. Housing community, which I mentioned, and this year we've done a really interesting piece of work around the analogue device sharing community. So all service providers in Scotland are progressing to digital, all moving at different paces and all at different rates and different stages, and some are completely over the line and fully digital, and some are much further back in that journey. And for services that still need analogue equipment, there is a need to kind of access that, and for services that are fully digital, they no longer need that equipment. So we've set up this community where if you've gone fully digital and you have all of this analogue equipment sitting there, you can pass that over to another local authority or another TSP, and they can then reuse that. It's been really useful for a whole range of reasons. Firstly, it's stopped services that need the equipment having to buy analogue equipment, which we know will be obsolete in 24 months, and then there's a double cost because they'll need to replace that with a digital device. It's also created a real kind of community feel in Scotland, so services are helping each other out of a kind of challenging situation, and also has quite a big impact on the carbon impact for the programme. So a lot of this analogue equipment will eventually end up in landfills, so the ability to stop procuring that and recycle the stuff we have has made quite a big impact. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Sam now.
David, I'll give you a brief respite. Thanks. So as David said, I'm Sam Leonard. I'm the project manager on the Shared ARC programme. So the Shared Alarm Receiving Centre, so the ARC, we're looking at the technology solution. So we're not looking at the call centre. So we're looking at the technology for that Shared ARC. The Shared ARC programme started back in November 2021 when it was approved by the Digital Citizen Board. And we engaged with the sector. We have 17 early adopter organisations that we've been working with over the past couple of years. The technical specification for the Shared ARC was collaboratively designed by them. We spent probably about 6 months working with them to develop that technical specification. It was then taken through our own technical assurance process where it was approved, and we then set about working with Scotland Excel. I think it's probably fair to say that our procurement journey was somewhat longer than we originally anticipated. It took us from probably June 2022 until March this year to get the tender ready for launch. It was launched in March this year, closed in May, and from May till August we've been going through tender evaluation and consensus. So we've worked with the early adopters, we've worked with Scottish Government, with NHS, NSS, and other technical experts on those consensus and evaluation panels. So one of the things that we wanted to do through that procurement was make sure that we both had a robust procurement, but also that we stayed true as we could to that technical specification that our early adopters had developed. So consensus finished in August. We went out to preferred supplier status in August this year, and the contract was finally awarded to Chubb Fire and Security with their partner Sky Response in November of this year. So it's a single supplier framework agreement. It's a 6-year agreement with options to renew after 4 years. And we've procured a cloud offering. It's multi-tenanted, it's off the shelf. It's been designed as software as a service, which is probably pretty standard nowadays, but I think for the sector, that's something they're used to having on-premise service and working with it in that way. The agreement that we have in place offers the adopters the facility to procure a core system, and then they can also purchase modules, so they could have, for example, stock and asset management, or they can also have applications, so they could have maybe a responder application or a lone worker application. And the whole basis that we've done is that you're allowed to kind of go in, pick and choose what you need for your organisation. So although there's a core offering, that's how we've developed that solution. So the solution itself will work with existing alarm protocols, but we've also encouraging the use of the open APIs that are there. So that will allow people to integrate into other devices, other alarms, also into other systems, and we feel that that's the way forward. The other thing there is that the adopters can benefit from the banded pricing that we have. So we've structured it so the more onboarders that come on board, then that per user pricing goes down, and that pricing is rolled out to all of the adopters. So they are benefiting from the economies of scale. And then just some benefits. The Shared ARC, although it's taken us a long time to get through this procurement journey, now we're there, we have a framework agreement that is able to be called off of from the Scotland Excel members website. So we've reduced the procurement journey for those early adopters. It provides the Telecare service providers, as David said, that ability to transition from analogue to digital. And I guess it also allows them to, continue to work with their analog devices and then make that transition through. It provides a foundation for remote working. So at the moment, we're kind of, based. I know that COVID meant that some people could go and work from home, but it's fully digital, it's fully remote. You just need your laptop and a headset, and you can go and work anywhere. With the correct governance in place as well, we're also hoping that we can have call handling shared, so for disaster recovery and business continuity, if you have that correct governance in place, you can hand your calls over to another organisation to manage them for you. David mentioned our kind of security assessed solution scheme as well. So the solution that we've procured also will sit within that technical approved solution scheme, and it will be technically kind of secured. It's been tested for its cyber resilience, and it also will kind of provide the foundations for better use of data and data sharing. Sorry. So we consider that the platform has been developed once, so once for Scotland. It can be adopted by many, and we're looking forward to looking at the innovations. Once we've gone through that journey of getting everybody transitioned from analogue to digital, we're looking forward to working with them as they look to develop different innovations, different devices. As David said, helping them transition from this kind of once for all kind of telecare service to being able to develop solutions that are more targeted to the individuals that are working. So we've worked for the last 2 years to get to this place, and we're now looking forward really to working with all our early adopters as they onboard and implement the solution. So thanks, David.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Sorry about that. So, yeah, as Sam says, we were a wee bit hesitant about this today, actually, because we realised that talking about some of these, cloud solutions to a room full of technical people potentially isn't particularly new to you guys or interesting, but for health and social care, it is genuinely a huge step change. It's never been done before, and it will have an enormous impact on the lives of telecare users and service users. So just wanted to touch a wee bit then around kind of some of the potential. Sam's covered off the benefits, the immediate benefits of the Cloud Alarm Receiving Centre. And we've been talking in health and care for more than a decade around some of the interesting things that we'd like to do, but really we've never been able to do because the technology hasn't allowed it. So there have been lots of kind of vertical solutions, lots of proprietary protocols in the system, lots of kind of lockdown. So innovation just hasn't happened as we would have liked, and the technology hasn't changed for more than a decade. So, we're really keen to kind of leverage and harness what we're doing here to try and kind of improve the services that people receive and improve outcomes for users. So wanted to touch a wee bit on data. Earlier this year, we launched our Telecare Information Framework. That's a data set for Telecare which will allow services to better capture how they perform, better measure how they're performing, but also as a national data set. So for the first time in Scotland, there will be that kind of standardisation. So we'll be able to take a national view on how Telecare operates. That's really helpful for us in terms of kind of learning how the service nationally is working, what it's delivering. Also really important for us to be able to demonstrate the benefit and the impact Telecare has. That's never really been possible in Telecare before because we've had lots of these systems that services have really struggled to pull data out of, haven't been particularly flexible or open. So this is a kind of unique opportunity for us to start to kind of leverage this cloud solution and moving beyond the kind of immediate opportunity around Telecare data, so the data that sits in the ARC, the open API functionality, the cloud functionality allows us to also pull data into the system from other social care systems. So again, that will be entirely new for the sector, so we can start to look at how we support people in a much more kind of proactive and preventative way. So rather than wait until people fall in attending, we can start to look at changes in lifestyle, start to look at are people not mobilising, are they not using the fridge, kettle, are they not drinking enough, start to look at this kind of predictive and proactive approach. So really exciting for us in terms of the shift that will create in the sector. This slide here kind of covers off what I've just said. Actually, this was created by our colleague Colin Birchnell in the digital office and really talks through the kind of journey we want to take around data, moving from something that's really reactive into a much more kind of proactive system and using more than traditional telecare to inform how we support people. So consumer technology, using things like automation and AI to start to reduce the burden on operators from doing kind of manual tasks, then they can do much more kind of customer-facing tasks. So real drive to modernise and improve how we deliver services. This is the kind of index of fields for the TIF. It's just to give you a bit of flavour of what it contains. I think overall there are 67 data points, and this is a national data set that will cover Scotland. And yeah, some of the areas, and most of the areas in there are kind of alarm receiving centre data, but as I say, for the first time ever, we'll be pulling data from other social care systems. So a wee bit then just about what's on the horizon for us. And as I say, these are opportunities that we've spoken about for quite a long time, but haven't been viable for a variety of reasons. So a digital telecare app. So there's a really well documented challenge in Scotland around facilitating hospital discharge. In lots of cases, the patient's discharge is dependent on telecare being in place, and sometimes that will fail for a number of reasons. It could be capacity for the service provider to arrange an installer to go out and install the device. It could be access problems. It could be telephony connectivity challenges in the property. So development of a telecare app would allow the patient to be to install that on their mobile device immediately and to be discharged immediately. And that means they don't miss that window then. So there will be people in Scotland at the moment that are ready to be discharged but can't be because they don't have technology in the home to give them that kind of 24/7 lifeline. So it will help facilitate discharge, but more importantly will stop people being stuck in that loop where they may become more vulnerable the longer they stay in hospital. So the kind of benefits immediately are around we can get people out back home quickly. Moving beyond that, there's a benefit to the provider around there's no need to send an installer out, schedule that visit, put in a pretty old-fashioned bit of kit that hasn't really changed for a couple of decades. And going beyond that then, we have that direct line into the service user. And for the first time ever in telecare, it doesn't need to be about the service user pushing a button to get help. It can be around things like public health messaging, flu vaccine time. Is it time to consider that well-being information? Make sure you're drinking enough fluid, make sure you're moving, all of those things that can really change the model for us from we wait until you're in crisis and then we help you to we can stop you getting into crisis in the first place. And the last one for me is just around the citizen-held record. So there's lots of research in Scotland that demonstrates that citizens would like to have more control over their data, more kind of the ability to control access to the data that sits around the services they receive. So the development of something like this would not only allow citizens to control that access, and there may be a certain level of access they'd want to give to their GP. They might want their families to see what's happening with them on a daily basis to a certain degree. They might want their care providers to have a different level of access. So not only does that kind of remove bureaucracy and speed up some of the challenges in the system around provision of care, it also builds a bit of trust with the service user and increases transparency, so it helps to build trust for that as well. That's me, folks. I'm going to finish up and hand back to Martin.
Thanks, David and Sam. So it's over to you for questions. If there's any questions from the floor at all. Don't all rush at once. Yes, gentlemen, 3 rows from the front. Yes, you.
You mentioned the possibility of bringing in like smarts and wearables and so on. Are you looking at that as a self-generated set of tools, or would you be bringing in third-party tools into the overall solution?
That one. Yeah, take that one. It's a really good question, and I don't know if we know yet. So I think, as I said, we're in a really interesting place for me because we've been talking about this stuff for a decade, but it's never been technically possible. So now that we're at that kind of place that we can start to deliver some of the stuff next year, ideally, we're just building a bit of kind of roadmap around how that looks. I think ideally it would be both. I think you'd want to be for it to be as open as possible, so citizens can use their own wearables, their own devices, so it avoids them needing to procure stuff. But also maybe there's an opportunity to do something slightly different around that as well.
I guess in part what I was trying to get to was if you don't have a framework in place, all these people are out there that are currently developing smart wearables healthcare. You'll end up with the same problem that you've had. That there will be bespoke solutions that you can't bring into a bigger system.
Yeah, and we have, so there's a couple of things on that. So we have a procurement framework where equipment providers will add their offerings, so that'll be against a set of criteria, so that would have to kind of fit in with, you know, open protocols, the ability to integrate with our alarm receiving centre. All of those things would be a requirement to be onboarded to that procurement framework. And we also have a DPS, which is where services that our equipment providers that develop something brand new can add that to the DPS, so that can be procured through that route. So there's also some kind of rigour around, you know, how that equipment operates and how it connects and all of that stuff.
I can come in the back of that as well. I don't think I was going to present or answer your questions for you. So under the digital health and care strategy, there's a subgroup for data strategy. And then there's using the terms of like SNOMED as a common standard for medical devices and interoperability between systems, which means that we can actually have those standards. But there's also a big bit of work around about data standards, so we can get the information flowing. And it also means you have got a framework. So DHI, the Digital Health and Care and Innovation Centre, has done a lot of work around about this before. They've done some early adopting things with having a data platform for information sharing, from the point of, if you've got a personal record, you can choose what to share. But also linking back into corporate systems, sorry, health and care systems and digital telecare as well. So there's a lot of work underway on that one just now, but it's still a moving feast at present. I saw another hand go up somewhere else before I pick on you. Yes, lady at the back.
Hi there. First of all, thank you very much. A really interesting presentation on an area which I've never really thought about, fortunately. I'm interested in your views on the sort of user design and UX side of things, because obviously some of your service users may be using your service for the first time at a point of crisis or when they're more vulnerable. So how do you kind of build for that?
David.
Thanks for that. Yeah, so it's a really good point. If I'm honest, I don't think it's something that has happened a lot in health and social care. Up till now, it is something we are cited on, and there's some early work happening with some councils around how that, how we kind of progress through that. So it is an ambition for us to get better on that. It is very early days, though. Yeah.
Gentleman at the front.
Hi there. First of all, congratulations. I know this has been a really long journey to get here, and for those of us who kind of watched it from the sidelines, yeah, well done to get here. I wondered if you would maybe talk to the journey and how it's been negotiating across 32 local authorities, and also whether this could be a kind of a roadmap for other shared local government systems in the future.
So I can do a bit of that. I mean, we've been described as, people say, like herding cats. Some people have said it's like Game of Thrones with less sex and more dragons. So I think it's about, the fact is that sorry, I'm going to cover this and then go back to you if you want to fill in. As Chief Digital Officer for the whole programme for digital transformation across councils in Scotland, it is a challenge because everybody's at different stages of their digital maturity. We've got a skills shortage, which is then even more challenging in some rural parts of Scotland. Connectivity challenges, you name it, we've kind of got it. The thing with the digital telecare piece is you've got a dead stop. The analogue to digital switchover is happening in December 2025, so we had to work to that time frame. So bringing the best of the best, and David, and I'm joking, bring the best of the best, the experts in, and David has a long history of working in the telecare service delivery as well at Edinburgh in the past, bringing this in to then work with key stakeholders, leaders, COSLA for elected members buy-in, for Solace for chief execs buy-in, has been progressive. The biggest challenge is because this is almost like a brand new innovation, we've had to make sure that every I's dotted, T's crossed to get to the stage. And cybersecurity is a fundamental part for this. So we've got an assured supplier scheme for certain solutions. So people with devices can come to us, we accredit them, we do cybersecurity testing on it, and it gets a badge to say, look, it's tested for the systems as well. So that's been one of the saving graces for it. In terms of other kind of common platforms, in the Digital Scotland strategy, there is a common solution, a common platform ambition. The same with the Verity House Agreement, which is between COSLA and Scottish Government, in terms of how local government and Scottish Government work together. So we've got sustainable future services. We've all got challenges with the public purse. We've all got a challenge with ageing workforce, ageing population we serve to. So by using these as levers, there is more kind of scope in this. And we've got several collaborative procurements coming out. For instance, a collaborative security operations centre. There's a PIN notice for that going out next week, hopefully. I'm waiting for somebody to come back off sick leave. but that'll go out next week to test the market. So we've got 15 councils looking at that as an early adopter again. So the same scenario we've had with Shared Arc, and there's a lot more now as councils are looking at the council of the future element of what do we do for digital transformation to improve services but save cost as well. David, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, just going to make a quick point. So we're normally quite modest, Craig, as you know, but I think, so we're a small team of 9 people, and I think a lot of why we've made so much progress is down to the work Sam and the rest of the team do.
Absolutely.
So we've built up real credibility with the sector in Scotland. Lots of the conversations we're having are with non-technical people. These are completely new challenges for them. And over the last few years, I think we've built up lots and lots of trust with them. So when we floated this as a proposal, I think we had quite a good head start with the sector anyway. So that's definitely helped.
I think one bit I forgot to mention is we've got partnerships with LGA, Tech Cymru in Wales. We've had other international interest in what we're doing in Scotland as well, because we seem to be the first or the leading for it. London Office of Technology and Innovation, which uses the same models as Digital Office in Scotland because I helped set them up, are also looking at what we do across Scotland as well to basically fast track where they are, because some of them have been caught unawares. Oh crap, we need to look at this now. And the fact is that we're all getting older, we all want to live remotely and independently. This gives the, I'm looking at it from my own perspective. What do I want to have when I get older? It's not long until long to retire. Christ, I've got another, 20 years. But it doesn't feel long. I know I look like 90 as it is just now. It's working for the digital office. I'm working for myself. But so there is that kind of that conduit in terms of the credibility we've got and built has been fantastic. And that's thanks to David and Sam and the team.
I think it's worth also saying that we really did take it on as a collaborative journey with our early adopters. So we started with 13, and at the end of the process we had 17. So I think we'd expected that would drop off rather than grow. And we have really worked with Scotland Excel. I think it's been quite challenging at times, but we really have developed those kind of relationships, and we'll continue. We have what we call a coordination and management function of the Shared Arc, so we will continue to work within that with Scotland Excel, with the successful contractor, and also as other early adopters coming on board. So we will sit within that for the foreseeable future.
Any other questions? Yes, John.
Thanks for a great presentation. I'm a board member at a housing association. Can housing associations buy into the Shared Arc?
Yep.
Sam?
Yep. Yeah, 2 of our early adopters are housing associations, so yeah, absolutely. As long as you're a member of Scotland Excel, then you can utilise the framework.
Thank you.
Perfect. One last question.
When is the first of the early adopters going live on the Shared Arc?
So our first early adopter, we are hopeful that they will go live before Christmas. So yeah. That's our current plan.
I've got a colleague I know from Perth and Kinross, if I remember rightly. Am I right? Yeah. Jim, any last questions for my colleagues?
Yeah, thanks. It was just about where it may go next in terms of predictive sort of analytics and data and things like that. And also, I mean, I'm surprised at how analog a lot of the stuff we still use is. We have a smart flat, but some of the technology that we're using is still pretty dated, actually. So where do you see that going?
Yeah, completely agree. And I've been around Telecare for a long time, and I think this is, on a personal level, this is one of the most exciting things about the work we're doing, because what it does is wonderful, but it really does need to be disrupted and it needs to modernise. So all of the stuff around predictive analytics and all of the stuff around the move to early intervention and prevention are really big ambitions for us. And not only because we want to improve outcomes for service users and for citizens, but if we don't do it, there'll be no need for Telecare in 10 years, because there'll be something else that's off the shelf that will remove the requirement. So big ambition for us. I think I said during the presentation, it's never really been a realistic possibility due to the kind of infrastructure. So for the first time ever, we're starting to seriously look at how we deliver the stuff over the next year or so, and early conversations with the technology provider for the ARC are really exciting. They do this stuff at scale in other regions of Europe, so they have a track record in delivering this type of thing, and really good experience on it as well. So yeah, really exciting.
Cool, thanks very much. One last question. Who's your favourite boss you've ever had in your career? Your best boss?
It's without doubt you, Martin.
That's okay. Sam?
No comment.
All right, okay, that's fine, thanks. So finally, just to wrap up today's session, please get involved and make the most of the opportunity today. There's loads of exhibitors showing off new technologies, prizes to be won, etc. So please engage with speakers and contributors. Ask any questions of the team. Last but not least, if you're into a bit of comedy, there's a new comedy show going live in March at the Glasgow Comedy Festival called Did You AI, Did You Not? By a really handsome guy called Martin Wallace. Tickets go on sale next week if you want to Google it on the Glasgow Comedy Festival. Thanks so much. Only a £5 a ticket. Well worth somebody hate for Christmas as well. But please go and visit the exhibitions and I'll see you soon. Thanks so much.